Alright, so in this video we're going to set up some more configuration, and we're also going to try to basically just set up the basic layout, so the navigation bar and the login form and the register form, and that's pretty much all we need to do for this video. So to start out with, let's make the register controller, which is the only controller we are going to have in the authentication system. Everything else we are going to be able to do by just coding /login or /logout or /user. So we're going to put that inside an authentication folder inside our controllers API folder, and in here we're only going to have a store function. Let's just leave that for now. So we also want to add in the request, of course, but what we actually want to do after this is we want to go in and also make sure that we have the user model, but we want to move it into a folder called models. And we also just want to make sure we have the Laravel UI required and set up the configuration there. Perfect. So with that set up, we also want to move the user model into the models folder just to keep a bit more structure, and want to update it in here. Additionally, we just want to make sure we validate this register controller by just calling the request validate function and copy and pasting in the validation rules from the official register controller. And then we just want to make sure that it can go through. And then we just want to create the user. We are, in this case, we don't actually need to send a response when we have created the user, because we are going to sign in the user afterwards by calling in an additional route. So that's actually how we're going to do this. So if we go inside here and create the models folder now, and we just want to put in the user model in there. And to refactor this, which is really important, is going inside the Auth configuration file, and then there we just want to change this one to -model, and then we also want to go inside the model, and we want to, quite frankly, just update the namespace so it will contain the models at the end of it. By doing that, we just need to update a few inside the authentication controllers to make sure that all of them contain the new one, so you can go in and basically just sign up the user and sign in the user perfectly fine. So by doing that, that will actually be everything for moving the controllers. And then next time you create a controller, you just want PHP artisan, and then put models, and then 2 backdashes, and then the controller name to put it inside the directory. So as you can see here, we just put this in here. We're not going to use this controller, but we're just going to leave it for now. And just double check that none of the other ones contain the user one. Also, as you can see here, this is the one where we are going to basically call this API to get the user information. And this is also here where we can call other APIs routes, for example, new user register and stuff like that. So let's just go in and create the register route, which we are going to put inside the API /register controller at store. Oh, sorry, /auth. And beside that, we just need to change the API to sanctum, because otherwise this will give an error. So next time you do a middleware, you need to put it under auth/sanctum, when it's just to check that the user is authenticated. And we don't actually need any of the other routes except for the authentication routes. We do need them. And beside that, we also just want to go in and make sure everything else in here works perfectly fine. So inside our sign in and sign up one, we just want to create the markup in here for that. So we're just going to use the box class from buefy. And also we're going to use the script later on. For now, we're just going to have a default template set up and then use it later. So we just want to go in and have the data as well. And when I do the data, I like to structure it inside the form. And there's a particular reason why we're going to do this in this case as well, is because it basically just makes the code more clean. So we can easier make the Axios request to it. All of this I will explain in another video when we get to the point where we are beginning to sign the user in and so on. Just to tidy up the HTML, we can just use the form instead of the div. And just have a submit a prevent. And we just want to call the submit function, which we are going to use later on. But this function is basically just going to sign the user in, check if there's any errors, and then return the errors to the user. And we're going to look at that again in the next video. We are going to focus on signing user in, signing the user up, and validating the information and all of that to display it for the user. So let's just skip over to the next part now. And also, when we create the password field here, let's just make sure that it has the V model. So what we also can do is passing in the password reveal, so you can actually see the password you're passing through. I myself find that a handy function from buefy. If you're the kind of person where your password goes wrong a lot, and then you want to check that it's the right password, and you just didn't make a typo because you typed too fast. And then also let's go in and add a HR here with just a button, and inside this button let's just call this as a primary button and just put in the text here. Also, another thing I like to do is just have, like, on the bottom there, just have some small checks asking if you haven't got a user, to ask them to sign up instead, because this just makes it a bit more user-friendly, because your eye is focused on the model, the form model, login model, not on the navigation bar. So it makes it easy for the user to quickly just change the page if they accidentally went into the wrong page. And to do that, we just use an end link with a 2 into it, and then we can basically allow them to go into the sign up page. Yeah. So let's go in and set up now the sign up page. So we want to have password confirmation and the name as well. All of these we just leave empty, and then we also just want to add in the extra fields. So I think that's really like important to have the password confirmation too, just in case you entered the wrong password, so that doesn't happen. And then also just add in some validation like minimum length, maximum length, make all of the fields, make sure they are required. And yeah, you know, basically just set up a default registration form. We are not really going to grab so much information from the user in the beginning. To start out with, we are going to focus on just creating the post function and the sign up and sign in function, the user profile, and editing the user details. And then later we're going to focus on likes, commenting, all of these things. But I think it's more important to start out with the most basic things. So like, if we start out by doing that, we can later on focus on the additional functions that make social media a social media. Maybe you want to be able to add in an image when you create a new post. And I don't think we're going to look into algorithms in this series, but we should probably take a look at it later on. Or at least put in some more validation. Maybe we can go in and create actually a spam filter for when you post, so you don't just post random stuff. So yeah, I think that's actually the most important things to set up with this system. And also just make sure we make the links work perfectly fine. So instead of this, we're actually just going to go by having --auth sign up and sign in. And we're also going to remove the colon from the 2. So it will work perfectly fine. So if we now go in and refresh and we click on one of these here, we just need to add in an additional dash, I think, on the sign up here. Perfect. Beside that, let's just go in and add in a class for marking top 50 pixels. So this is just to give a little bit more space between the navigation bar and the box model. So we can just go in and add the class in each of that if we just go in and add it into the layout file. So if you go in and put empty 50, it will put in the mark on top of 50. There's more auto-generated ones of these, but right now we only need to use the 51, so that's the one I always go with. And then let's go in and add our own logo. In this case, it's just some text instead of the buefy logo. Alright, perfect. So now we have this, all of this is fully functional. And then we also just want to go in and update the links in here for the authentication to work. And then inside the nuxt configuration file, what we also need to do here, and these are important, is make sure the Axios have credentials to true. And then we also want to make sure that we have the base URL. This is really important to make sure it's localhost as the base URL, whatever your domain is, but just make sure that it's your domain and it's not 127.0.0.1. And yeah, so now the Axios will automatically send the request to this URL. Make sure to update this when you go into production mode to your domain name. And then we also need to install the Auth module for nuxt.js. So what this allows us to do is we can combine this with sanctum, and by doing that we can actually go in and send in login and the sign out and getting the user details request. Fairly easy, and this is just a really handy feature that comes in with nuxt.js, and it also again makes it easy for us just to make the code more clean and tidy, which again in next video we're going to be focusing on signing the user in and signing the user up, and as well add in some validation, which is primarily speaking just going to be the focus of the next video. And then also displaying the user details, and then I think the video after, maybe the same video, we're going to add in it is the user details, so you can go in and easily add in, change your name and stuff like that, and then later on we can add in more fields as we fancy to, for example add in country or other social media accounts, stuff like that. Another thing that's important is to add in the strategies for the Auth model. So that's basically just putting in the endpoints for the login, the sign out, and the user points, and just adding in the token information, which we can just find in here inside the Auth one here. So if you go in and copy and paste the one here, or actually I think maybe we're gonna just stick with the one down at the bottom here. Alright, so what we just want to remove here is on these we want to remove the login, and we want to remove the API, we want to remove the property name, and we want to do that for actually all of these in here, except for the user details. We just want to remove the auth. And then additionally, we just want to go in and I'll just double check from the other project I have where I put in some information about the tokens and stuff like that, just to make sure that everything there is perfectly fine. So with all that done, let's just go in and open up Postman, and in here we just want to double check that we can actually get the CSRF cookies by pointing it to logos. So if we go in here, just create a get method. We want to go to sanctum CSRF cookie, and we want to go inside the cookies here and see that we got the cookies. And those would then be set in the browser when we call that function via Axios in the next episode. And I think we're beginning to get to nearly everything for this video now. If we just go in, yes. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, please be patient. The quality of the video might take some time to process, so it might not be full definition just when it gets uploaded.